Coming back at you again. This is Coach Jimmy G Jr. of the Legacy in Leadership podcast. In all areas of your life, whether that's business, personal, family, friends, your health, you're going to consistently be surrounded typically by the same people. Those you live with, even work out with, etc. Right? It's not really going to change much over time. So you need to be absolutely sure that you're surrounded by the best of the best. In this episode, stay tuned because Devon and I are going to be breaking down why you should keep your inner circle small. Right about now, you are listening to the Legacy and Leadership Podcast, a show where we discuss living as a leader worth following, leading others to do the same, and in doing so, leaving a legacy for future generations. My name is Jimmy Gonzalez Jr., a learning and development professional and leadership coach, sitting down with my co-host, Anthony Devon Watts Jr., an expert contact center leader that has effectively led and developed dynamic teams with high motivation. Together, we have over 30 years experience in the corporate game. Join us as we discuss our growth as leaders, share the lessons we've learned, and interview others to see how their leadership style was shaped as they were mentored by adversity. Yo, Legacy Leaders. Welcome back to the Legacy and Leadership Podcast, brought to you by your L3G Coaches. I am Jimmy Gonzalez, along with my homeboy, Devon Watts.
Here.
What is good, bro? How you doing?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Got a belly full of fresh, hot McDonald's and Starbucks. Only the finest for the family.
Finest for the fam.
I didn't feel like cooking today, man, and so we got to relive a little bit of a childhood moment for me, because we wanted to make sure that McDonald's, especially the fries, they not right if they not fresh. Like, they got to be fresh. So we said, you know what? Let's pack up the boys, and we actually gonna go to our local McDonald's and actually sit down in the McDonald's and eat them, so we can catch them like the fries right out the oil. And I think I was sharing with you, man. I haven't had that experience of sitting down and eating at McDonald's like with my family, like since I was a little kid, like a jit, right? So that was cool, man. Just to kind of experience that with the boys and the missus and us stuff in our faces. I couldn't get off the move my dad used to get off. He used to convince us to save space on the table. Let's take all of your fries and consolidate it in one tray, right? And then we'll all share from this tray. And he would eat a disproportionate amount of the fries. I couldn't pull that move off. My family, they saw me coming from a mile away. I was like, hey, let's just combine our fries. No, I'm good. I'll make it work over here, Dad. I promise. Like, man, how did he get this over on us? So I'm good, man. I'm ready to pod, man. I'm ready to pod and connect with our folks and deliver the message that we have to deliver. About your inner circle. I know we've been talking about that a little bit over these past couple of episodes, and I think today what we're planning on getting really into is like kind of talking about like why you should keep your inner circle small, which is important as an entrepreneur, as a leader, when it comes to decision making and counsel and who you decide to trust, and even beyond just kind of the immediate inner circle. But what are some learnings that you can take from that process of keeping your inner circle small and the values of that, and how can you apply that to how you grow and scale your business? And so, I'm excited to get into that. But how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. It's been a good day. I got the fresh cut, had a chance to go see Jazz. I was definitely past due for the cut. I don't know if you've noticed, because I was just talking to my wife. She's like, yeah, I thought something was different. Like, oh no, is in his older age, is his forehead getting bigger? I'm like, no, sweetheart. He had to like take the fade up a little bit higher. So it's that moment when your barber asks you, did you edge yourself up? I was like, yeah. He's like, did you use a razor? I was like, yeah. He's like, don't do that again. Like, just wear a hat next time. I didn't say anything, because this is like the second time that this has happened. And then my mom, like, but I had appearances I had to make. Like, the edge was but you know, you don't have the right type of mirror and view. And I knew I kind of got into it the wrong way. So now he was like doing extra work and like doing surgery on the edge.
I was going to say, he's like, all right, we need 7 cc stats of alcohol. I need a 2 guard, a 1 guard, and give me the straight razor. We're going to see if we can save this hairline.
Exactly. But yeah, Jazz did his thing. So happy about that. And just a chance to get to go into the shop and see the fellas. Besides that, yeah, the day has been good. Again, no complaints, man. Excited, like you said, about the conversations that we've been having and just continuing to focus on protecting your inner circle. So if you are a new listener or if you're a loyal listener, please make sure that you like this episode, like the podcast, and give us a review. We love comments, always love comments. But if you're listening on Podbean, Apple, Spotify, wherever you like to enjoy to consume your podcast, again, go ahead and leave us a review. We definitely appreciate that. And for our viewers out there who are watching our YouTube channel and this vidcast, same thing. Like the video. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and definitely leave us comments because we read them. We engage, and like you've seen in a couple of examples, we would like to do it more. We definitely want to give our legacy leader community out there shout outs for the individuals that leave comments and engage with us in that type of way. And you never know, like it happened a couple of episodes ago, your comments might spark a particular topic for us that we end up discussing and taking a deep dive in within the podcast itself. But yeah, this is episode 37, I believe. No, this is episode 38. Sorry,
What?
This is episode 38. Yeah, coming off the heels of our first live podcast episode on Podbean. That is our installment of Cold Brew and Convos with your L3G coaches. So we got the podcast itself. We have our NBA series, which we'll get to at the end and let you know what's coming up with that. And then, we got Cold Brew and Convo. So be on the lookout for that every Wednesday evening at 8 o'clock. Live podcasts, again, with your L3G coaches, coaching you up.
Coaching you up.
Talking about the X's and O's of business and entrepreneurship for all of our entree leaders out there.
Love it, man. With full sound effects and everything. So if you guys appreciate the little nugget drops and all that stuff, we'll have the full sound effects and a couple new ones. We had to clap it up a little bit and also give some boos, some boos to the audience. So man, it's a good time and we enjoy engaging. So definitely make sure that you guys join us Wednesdays, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Cold Brew and Convos. We're gonna be teaching you up.
Yeah. So episode 38. Again, we've been talking about protecting your inner circle on one of our last episodes. I guess that would be episode 36. We were talking about really 7 personality types, toxic personality types that you should be aware of and making sure that you get out and keep out of your inner circle and talking about the importance of that. But then, in that same tone or vein, we definitely wanted to discuss, as Devon mentioned already, why it's important to keep your inner circle small. We've been having some conversations kind of off mic before we recorded, and so we feel like we got some good nuggets to drop, and just some different aspects to really jump into.
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of, again, fleshing this out just a little bit more as we continue to kind of talk about your inner circle. If you guys haven't listened to episode 36 where we talk about the 7 different personality types, we all know that one of the most important decisions you can make as an entrepreneur, as an entre leader, right, is who do you decide to build with? And a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we tend to gravitate towards building with people that we have a relationship with, right? Friends, we obviously, there's a certain level of trust, there's a certain level of rapport, there's a certain level of understanding, and a desire to want to be successful. I mean, that's part of the, reason that, for example, Jimmy and myself have started to build the Legacy Leadership Learning Group is because these conversations that we're having right now about leadership and these concepts and breaking this stuff down, we've been talking about for 12 plus years, right? And we just said, hey, you know what? We're passionate about this. We have a lot of expertise. We've been able to experience some things in life, and we think that we can offer something to the space, right? And so knowing how important that decision is, we feel obligated to bring to the attention of our listeners, our entre leaders out there, as a part of this coaching, is how to practice discernment and identifying toxic personality types that may exist within your inner circle that could create issues for you when it comes to building your business, right? And who you decide to go into business with. And then now, as you start to continue to build and people start to see some semblance of success, or they're starting to see the vision and those things come to fruition, how to combat allowing your circle to grow, right? Because it's important that you keep that inner circle tight. And I think, that's one of the areas where we have full influence or control over our, the nature of those relationships, right? Because we can't pick our family, right? Like once we're born and we're here, this is what we got, right? And we're making the best out of what we have. And I say that a little tongue in cheek, right? Because we all experience the range of personalities and just people that exist in our family. Some we're really close with, and there's a lot of value we can extract, and others is like, I'm gonna see you at the cookout, and that's probably it. Right? Co-workers, we really don't have a lot of say in, right? Like once we join an organization, the folks that also have joined, like that's what we have to deal with and navigate those personalities. But when it comes to friends, when it comes to your inner circle, you have full influence over that. And so we want to really just kind of talk about why to keep that circle small, the value of keeping that circle small, and deep diving again beyond that, like how you can take some of those learnings and apply it to scaling your business, and how do you build out the community for your business as well.
Yeah, so we want you guys out there, our legacy leaders, our entree leaders, to think about quality instead of quantity, right? So kind of from a micro perspective, again, your friendships, your business partners, and then from more of a macro perspective, when you're thinking about your community, again, think quality versus quantity. So we'll jump into that. But a lot of, as you get older, I think a lot of adults, the majority, like if you ask people, they're probably going to say, yeah, I'd rather have stronger relationships, right, and deeper relationships, even if there are few, than having multiple relationships, or just kind of a variety of what you might consider acquaintances. And I've even expressed this with you over the last year. Like that's something that was heavy on my heart and on my spirit, that like I'm just not that type of individual anyway that has, again, like a large number of friends. But even that close circle, like I want to go deeper. Like my wife, my kids, my homeboys like yourself, like I want to make sure that those relationships that I'm cultivating, intentional about doing things to help those relationships get deeper. With my son, even like with my moms and my pops. I think it's somewhat natural, as you get older, to feel that way. But there's a reason for that, right? It's that there's limited time. The more your dynamics change in your life and the older that you get, like you just don't have a lot of time in general. So it's important that, all right, the time that I have that I'm going to invest, I want to make sure that there's specific people I'm going to be investing in, and I'm going to try to make those relationships and that time make them as meaningful as possible.
No, absolutely. It's funny you talk about like deeper, right? Because like when we started, wrestling with this concept, like the first image that came to mind was just like oil drilling, right? Oil drilling. Obviously people know the value that oil represents, right, for the world. I mean, wars have been started because of it. Occupations, from one country to another, like it represents economic freedom, all this other stuff, right? So there's a value. There's a value there. And when you look at the process of how, these organizations go about extracting the value of oil, a lot of that concept can be applied to your relationships. Like what you start to understand is that the value, where you can get to the value or extract the value, is in going deep, not going wide, right? It's not about the breadth of relationships, like how many folks that you know and engage with. It's really about how deep are those relationships, right? And as we talked about in episode 36, when we talked about the dangers of having some of these toxic personality types within your inner circle, because obviously that close proximity and trusting these individuals, you're often using them as counsel. It's important that you keep that circle small and those relationships deep so that you can have confidence in the counsel that you're receiving, right? The confidence in the counsel that you're receiving. Our listeners may have heard us mention this plenty of times, and it's definitely something that I think you and I ended up stumbling across years ago as we were just kind of going through, studying the Word and some Bible study and things like that. Actually, it was a book from Praying Through Kings. I think it was Praying Through Kings. And in that, there was a quote that just really resonated with me and that I continue to carry with me, which is every king needs counsel. Right, every king needs counsel, so every leader needs counsel. And this past weekend, we had some friends over, and we were just perusing through HBO Max. You know how that goes, like I'll just chill in and like, all right, let's see what's on HBO Max. And it came across King Arthur, the movie King Arthur, which I think I'd seen before, but I didn't really pay attention. And so I watched that. It was actually pretty good. It's worth the watch if you guys haven't checked it out. But it's crazy, like thinking about the message in there, right? King Arthur, everybody knows King Arthur for having a round table, right? A round table. And, just thinking about our messaging when it comes to the importance of keeping your inner circle small, right? King Arthur's table was round for a reason, right? Because you can only fit so many seats at the table, right? If it was long, if it was rectangular, you can keep adding on seats and adding on seats and adding on seats and growing that counsel that he needs as a king. And now what you do is you end up cheapening you start to add individuals to the equation where the relationship is shallow. And so you can't have confidence in the counsel. So it's fitting that King Arthur, the round table, and we're talking about your inner circle and keeping your inner circle small, right, is, again, going back to that, it's important that, you're focused on the depth of your relationships and not the breadth of your relationships, and that you try to go deeper with all those that you have a really close relationship with, like you mentioned, the missus, the kids, but especially, even in your friendships, pushing yourself, being intentional about making those relationships deeper and more meaningful.
Yeah, and that might be somewhat challenging at times. Even through this past year, there's obviously a handful of guys that I are in my inner circle that I confide in, but then there's individuals that are in that circle, but then there's individuals that I speak to more so on a regular basis. So obviously you're one of those individuals. I think about my homeboy Gary as well, and as men, I think part of that is allowing yourself to be vulnerable, expressing really how you're feeling with people, right, and being able to allow those relationships to go deeper, which that's a challenge. And we've talked about that before too, with men in society, that's not necessarily how we were raised, to allow for emotion and passion to be expressed in those type of ways. It's great when you're on the football field or playing sports and you're in the gym, but when it comes to having a one-on-one conversation or this relationship with one of your homeboys, that hasn't, again, always been how we were taught to navigate those relationships. But it's important because we talk about as well, iron sharpens iron. Well, in order for that to truly be a reality, there has to be transparency. There has to be an acceptance of accountability. And if you're not sharing things with your people, with those individuals that are in your circle, the accountability is not going to be there. The wise counsel, because you have to be able to say, hey, this is what I'm going through, and I've made a mistake, or I'm thinking about these things and I need your help to avoid it, and I've already stepped in it, and I need your wise counsel to help me get out of this situation. But again, that takes it takes vulnerability. It takes humbling yourself, to these individuals. And again, as men, that doesn't necessarily always come naturally. But humbling yourself and being transparent, being vulnerable, and allowing, for again those relationships to be able to get deep. But that takes time, right? It takes time to build trust, to build those relationships up.
Well, I think that's, to your point, that's where the importance of like being able to go deep comes in. Is there's only so much time that you have to foster or nurture those type of meaningful relationships. And so if time is finite, right, every additional person that you quote unquote add to your circle of trust is now occupying a slice of that finite time. And so
absolutely,
there's only so much that you can get, that you can connect with or share transparently and have that space to work through the wide range of emotions or things that may come up, if you're spreading yourself too thin, right? There's been plenty of times, you and I, we'll sit on here and we'll chop it up for, an hour on the pod, but we're chopping it up an hour before and an hour after. That's 3 hours. You know what I mean? And all value added stuff and loving, just catching up and stuff like that, right? But like, could we do that if we had 10, 20 people, 30 people that are in our quote unquote inner circle? Like, no, you just can't build that type of meaningful relationship. And to your point, like I think about myself, and I love what you brought up here about like just the accountability, the space for accountability has to exist, right? I have probably about 5 people, period, in my inner circle, and they all have met me at different times in my life. They all offer something different to me, in my life. But these are individuals that I have confidence in their counsel. Right? And I have confidence because of the depth of our relationships. For each one of them, I have been through some things. They've had exposure to me at my lowest point, some of my lowest points, and been able to pour into me and be there as somebody that can hear me out and give me confidence and advice and encouragement, the word, right? And vice versa. I've been there for them in some of their lowest points, right? And so the quality of those relationships and the depth of those relationships are so significant that I have confidence in their counsel. So that these individuals, like, actually, if I think about it, every single one of these individuals, and our relationships are rooted in depth of, a depth of trust personally, also reach out to me because they trust my counsel when it comes to their business. Right. So like these individuals, like obviously you and I are in business together, but I'm thinking about Lewis. I'm thinking about my homeboy, Andy, Clyde. Like I'm thinking about Shav. Right. I'm thinking about Richard. Like these individuals have reached out to me, inquiring and asking my perspective about what's going on in their business that I'm not a part of. I have no stake in. I'm not a co-owner, anything like that. They just trust me because of the depth of our relationship. Right. And so they trust me because they know that accountability is going to exist there because they've given me accountability, and that the healthy friction will be there, and that having those differing perspectives is necessary to sharpen iron, right? Like the sharpening of iron comes from the healthy friction, right? That means if you really think about like friction, like let's get into the science of it, right? That means that you have a set of material that is moving in one direction and another set of material that's moving in the opposite direction. And there's pressure there, right? And through that process, there's friction, right? So that means the differing perspectives are necessary in order to sharpen both sets of material, both tools, right? If there is no friction, they're moving in the same direction. Honestly, what ends up happening is they don't sharpen, they end up dulling each other, right? And so when we think about the importance of keeping your inner circle small, and why those relationships are so meaningful, those friendships are so meaningful, why it's important to go deep, it's that you need that type of accountability, that type of healthy friction in order to continue to grow, to be refined, as a leader, as an entrepreneur leader, as a person. And you guys already know, like when we deliver these messages to you, we're not just talking about the X's and O's of your business, right? We're talking about the X's and O's of life. This is the playbook of life. You have to be sharper in all these areas, right? Be able to deliver in all of these areas. And so I love the point that you're bringing up just around the healthy friction and the accountability being necessary, because that's the only way that iron truly sharpens iron.
And it's important as well, right? There's definitely, as you start to cultivate these relationships, you tend to gravitate towards these individuals because there are some similarities, right? That doesn't mean that, to your point, that everybody is in the same mindset or thought process, because there's benefit to having diverse perspectives in your inner circle. And you don't want a lot of people like you because of what you just said. That's dull. And when you're trying to be the best version of yourself, surrounding yourself with other individuals that have that same mentality, and they're trying to be the best version of themselves. Again, that part of that is being able to look in the mirror, or sometimes have somebody else look at you and give you that feedback and hold you accountable. That's where the friction comes in. But with that friction, with the, kind of the testing of those conversations and that growth, you begin to continue to take steps and move in that direction again of truly becoming that best version of yourself. It's important, right? Like I think about the quote, Jim Rohn, like you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? I've also had in 3 years or so, the books that you read and the people that you hang with will determine, who you're going to be in 3 to 5 years. And that's so true, because it's these individuals in some form or fashion, you're allowing them, right, access to you. You're allowing them access to speak into your life, to influence your life in some type of way. So you have to be super mindful of those individuals and who you allow that into. And also in your maturing, also understand, because we had this conversation, right? Like whether it's you and I or other friends we have, like we don't always agree on stuff, but that's not the point. Mm-hmm. Like the point is not to always agree. It's okay to have, differencing of opinions and disagreements and talk through those things. And sometimes you never all right, it at least gives you pause to start thinking about your perspective and where you stand. And sometimes maybe you're like, nah, like whatever. And I love you, but I don't see it that way. Or you know what, that is an interesting thought. Let me at least think about it. Let me ponder it. Let me digest it a little bit more. And again, that's where growth happens, right? And that's somewhat part of the challenge that we have today in society, is that, individuals you want to be with like-minded people, but not exactly like you, to where we all think and speak and say the same things, and you don't have the diverse thought around you that provides benefit. It provides benefit to you and others when you can kind of challenge each other and talk through those things. So yeah, man, just super important again to really think about your inner circle, who you have in that inner circle, and focusing on the depth of those relationships. Mm-hmm. And how you go about, selecting that, man. I was saying it earlier as well. I think about, you mentioned your pops, even my dad as well. And the number of times that I know I was able to go to him and say, hey, this is the situation that happened. I need some help. I need some counsel. I need, some thought on how to get out of this. My pastor as well, definitely is somebody who, I value obviously their opinion, his opinion, and where he's coming from. So it just, I guess we can't really speak enough to the importance of keeping your inner circle small, but also the importance of that wise counsel that comes from that, and how people see you, like you said, and people reaching out and knowing that, like, I can trust this person because of your track record. right? There's depth in those relationships because of time, because of challenging or difficult conversations and working through those things. Your level of excellence, the person that you are, like, that means something to those individuals that, like, what, when I have a question, whether it's about life or whether it's about business, I know that I can call Devon and I'm going to get the real. And I'm going to get real perspective. And even if I might not like it, he's still going to be honest with me. But that's what I need. And that's what I'm looking for. So valuable as an individual. And then, again, as a business owner, to have those people that, again, you can go to bounce ideas off of and get that same type of wise counsel.
No, I love that, man. And the point I was going to make, too, is that when we talk about keeping your circle small, I want to make sure that our listeners are following us, our entre leaders are following us. It doesn't mean, like, just keep it small but don't go deep. We're tying the two things together for a reason, right? We're saying you need to keep it small so that you can go deep. The value is in deepening those relationships, deepening the relationships within your inner circle. And that means that, and you called this out, like, there's going to be some uncomfortable conversations. Every single person that is in my inner circle, we have had difficult conversations at one point or another. And it is uneasy. It is awkward. Like, I want to acknowledge that for all of our listeners. Like, these things will exist, but you have to push through. It's kind of like, what was I reading, man? I was reading, I don't know why, but I just, again, you know me, man. I just like to consume random stuff. So I was reading something that was like kind of getting into, like, why do people, for example, pick at like bumps and scabs and stuff like that, right, on the body? And it's not, I know, but I promise you, there's a point here. Right, but
I'm listening.
And it is not just because, like, people have some type of nervous tick, but what it is subconsciously we do that to invoke a certain level of pain, of discomfort and pain, because we also associate that discomfort and that pain with our mortality. Right, it's almost like a reminder that I am a living being, and that also I can experience things, and that there is, as dark as this may sound, if you want to take it dark, but there is a finality to this life that I am living, right? And so it's just kind of that reminder of your presence, right? And, like, your existence and, again, your mortality. And so the reason why I'm saying that is because, when you're having these difficult conversations or when you're trying to go deep, going deep is going to feel uncomfortable, much like picking at a scab. Right? It is going to feel awkward. It is going to feel painful, right? But the goal there is a reminder, right? It's to serve as a reminder of how to get the most out of the relationship, how to get the most out of your life, right? Like, it is a reminder that, these relationships are much more meaningful than just being transactional, right? And so, I think that's probably the biggest point that you kind of stressed or made is, it's not just keeping it small, but it's also going deep, and then being intentional about going deep and having these discussions and, trying to establish a relationship, trying to establish a rapport, demonstrating vulnerability, asking for humility. And only through that can you then have the type of relationships where, hey, I'm reaching out. I am dealing with something, and I need counsel on this, and I have confidence in the counsel because of the track record, right? If it wasn't for those difficult conversations, if it wasn't for the conversations where my boys were, we've shed tears, right? Where we've talked about our fears, we've talked about our mess ups, we've talked about our shortcomings, how to improve, our aspirations, what we're building. If it wasn't for that, then we wouldn't have the track record established, the credibility established, the cachet established to say, I'm hitting up Jimmy because I know I'm going to get the real. I know I'm going to get the real because we done been through the real. You know what I mean? We done been through the real, so I know exactly what I'm getting when I pick up this line. I know exactly what I'm getting when we chop it up pre-pod and post-pod. Like, I know exactly what I'm getting. And so that would be my challenge to a lot of our entre leaders out there, our entrepreneurs, our legacy leaders, as you're listening, is don't just keep your circle small. focus on making your circle deep. And I think if you're intentional about making it deep, you'll naturally keep it small.
Yeah. So when you think about, again, keeping your inner circle small, choose your friends, choose these individuals wisely, think quality over quantity. And, some of us may naturally just be like that. Like, again, at heart, I really am introverted. So like if I'm at a party or something like that, it's been, I guess, a long time since I've been at a party. But like I'm the type of individual, I'm not going to be like moving around talking to a whole bunch of people. Like if I can have 1 to 2 like really good conversations, I would have left feeling comfortable and like, yeah, like that was meaningful for me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So again, it's about that quality instead of quantity, but also knowing that, when you're choosing these individuals, it takes time, it takes trust. I think about from a business perspective, right? Getting people to know you, like you, and trust you. Your friendship may have started, 12 years ago, but it was those first couple of weeks. It was those first couple of conversations. It was those first few months. And all of a sudden, okay, there's a connection here. I appreciate what I'm getting from this individual. Then it becomes years. And before you know it, you have a lifetime or a lifelong friendship. And I mentioned this on episode 36, that also realizing that you're going to have people, like I mentioned, that might be in your inner circle, but they're not necessarily always individuals that I talk to like on a consistent basis. Mm-hmm. So I have another very close friend that I haven't talked to him in probably 4 or 5 months. We may go 4 or 5 or 6 months before we have a conversation, but this is somebody that I've known since high school. So again, like 9th grade, like we've been through some things. We've played sports together. We've been through some serious situations together. We spent hours in the freezer of Kentucky Fried Chicken when we were like 17, 18 years old, trying to get some extra hours and cleaning up the freezer, because that was the only thing that was available for us if we wanted some more money and extra hours. But like in that moment, we were in there, doing our job, but like we had one of the most meaningful conversations at that point of our relationship. But like it led to so much more and a deepening of our appreciation for each other and our relationship as we became young men, and then as we grew into men and then started having our own families and children and stuff like that. So yeah, man, it's just about quality versus quantity, and realizing that you may have some situations where people are kind of, in your life for a season, they come in, they come out, but knowing that that's still one of those individuals that like, if I need something, if I have a question, like I know that I can go to that person and they're going to be there for me. And I can trust their help. I can trust their feedback. I can trust, again, the opinion that they're going to provide. So again, when we're thinking about keeping your circle small, and again, this circle, but this circle of influence in your life, maybe it's 3 people, 5 people, 6 people, maybe it's just 2 or 3, but create those close bonds with those individuals, and you'll see that you'll come to rely on them more and more, especially again in those times of need, or just when you want to have, hang out, have a good time. Like, these are my people that I know are like my ride or dies, man, and we're going to have a good time no matter what. So what we wanted to do is, again, take that same kind of concept, but especially for our entrepreneurs out there and business owners, how do we view that same perspective, but from a business sense? So not just like you and I, and having business partners and making sure that you're evenly yoked. To me, that's very important for your inner circle, but especially like if I'm going to go into business with somebody, like this is serious, man. This is how, not right now, but right. The goal is, like we hope that this is going to be something that helps to provide that legacy that we're trying to leave for our family. So like this has to be something that I trust dearly. And again, we have the same type of values, because when we're making decisions, we're not necessarily going to be exact in that process that we go through, but I know that our faith, I know that our beliefs are kind of the engine and the genesis of where that well that we're going to help us make the decisions that we're making. That's just super important, man. But when you think about your community and you think about building your community, it's important as well to go deep with your community and to think about quality instead of quantity. So from a social media perspective, you have a lot of folks that they want to build this huge community. They see other folks out there, these, influencers with hundreds of thousands of fans and followers, which is cool. But I think it's even more important to nurture your community and really think about those 1,000 true fans that no matter what you put out there, free content, free services, paid services, they are going to be there every single time. You put out a podcast, they're going to be there. You put out an e-learning course, they're going to be there. You put out some swag and shirts and sweaters, like they're going to be there for that because they value that. And just the importance of going deep with your community and doing your best to build strong relationships, even with a few people, instead of trying to have, more so of a superficial kind of relationship with thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anybody that truly has expertise in marketing will tell you, right, that there's not a secret button that you can hit that drives your engagement through the roof, right? It's like, it has to be genuine. You have to meet people, you have to meet your community where they're at, and you have to establish genuine connections and then create value in the marketplace, value in the space that you're occupying, right? And then you slowly build your community from there. And just like we talked about with making sure that you're going deep with your inner circle, the same concept applies, like you called out, to building your community for your business, being able to go deep, right? And I think that's important to bring to our entre leaders because, social media, I hate to be that guy, I sound like a boomer, but when we really think about like the way that our social media has been set up from the time of MySpace to like now, right? Like, we're gonna go take it way back, like MySpace to now, right? It has been set up with the intention of driving exposure as opposed to like rewarding exposure as opposed to rewarding intimacy. Right, like if you really think about on these pages that you look at with these brands or these personalities and all this other stuff, right? Like what is flashed to everybody, Twitter, IG, all that, right? Is a number of followers, but they don't flash in the engagement scores, right? You know what I mean? And we all know that, from how the algorithm works and what shows up on people's timelines, the algorithm actually over indexes on engagement with your content than it is the number of people that you follow, right? And when we say engagement, we're not talking about like passive likes, right? We're talking about people that comment. We're talking about people that save your posts and things like that, right? That's true engagement. And so it's telling because you can have a brand that has 1 million followers and the engagement is less than 2%. And then you have another brand that has maybe 50,000 followers, but that engagement is 20, 30%, right? Who's making the more meaningful connection, right? Who is seeing the type of growth that they need to see in their business, right? There are vehicles out there, businesses out there that understand that the way that a lot of us are wired to assess our value in the marketplace is on likes. And so, they have these like farms and these follow farms, right? But at the end of the day, does that drive monetization for your business? Does that drive a cult following? Can you take this community that you've built and move it from one platform to another? That's the test, right? That's the test. If I can build up, buy these likes and this engagement in one place, one platform, one community, and I say, all right, now I need to take you from this platform and get you to my website because my acquisition costs would be lower there, or I need to take you to this e-learning course, this webinar that I'm doing somewhere else, right? If you can't get people from platform A to platform B, right, then you've over-indexed on exposure and not intimacy. The goal is to get intimacy, right? And like you said, get those 1,000 true ravenous fans that are on board for the community that you've built because that community exists, right? And so how can you do that? How are some of the things that you do that? Well, the same thing that we talked about with deepening your relationships with your inner circle applies with your community that you're building. The time, right? The exposure to who you are, what you value, right?
I was going to say transparency.
Transparency,
Yep, exactly.
Sharing your journey, sharing what you're going through. For us, we really started to see an acceleration in the communities that we've been able to build, the communities we built on Podbean, the communities that we built on Facebook, the communities that we've built on IG, LinkedIn, based off of being transparent about who we are. If you guys listen to our podcast from the very first episode, boom, we're recording. Right? From the very first episode and episode 2 and 3, like the very first 3 episodes is about getting to know who we are, what makes us tick, what has shaped our leadership view. We share our personal experiences. We talk about, everything from being thrown in from offensive line to quarterback, right? To, running for class president, like it's a presidential campaign, right? Like we talk about those experiences, and because of that transparency, because of that connection, we were able to establish a meaningful community, and we've continued to build on that foundation based off of that, right? It's not that, we just come on here and we drop a bunch of, nuggets and we study up and we read, right? But like, you're getting authentically us every single time that we turn on this mic and we turn on the red light and we start recording. And so the challenge for our entrepreneurs, as you guys are listening, our entre leaders out there, as you're building your brand, is how do you create more transparency between you and your community? How do you bring them along for the journey? And to your point, it's about being a good steward over a little, so that you can ultimately eventually be a good steward over a lot. Like you guys, if you've popped into some of our cold brew and convo sessions, if you looked at some of the early YouTube videos that we dropped, if you looked at our early downloads, like before we really started to establish a community, like of our first couple of episodes, man, like 25 downloads in a week was a good week. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And now we've been blessed enough to foster a true community where in less than a week on an episode, a couple of days, we can get 100 downloads, right? Mm-hmm. We can get comments and engagements in different places that we're occupying, right? That is not, because of some magic trick and algorithm and fancy Facebook marketing. It's not. It came from building a community built on transparency, built on consistency, built on time and going deep. And so that would be the challenge for our entrepreneurs, our entre leaders, as you're listening to this out there, is finding ways to go deep with your community, and then again building those 1,000 true fans. And if you do that, regardless of how many show up, and you're consistent, they're going to be able to follow you wherever you decide to go, wherever you're taking your business. And if you're fortunate enough, that can grow from 1,000 to 10,000 to 100,000 to 1 million. But it's all built on the foundation of, again, transparency and a deep relationship with that community.
Yeah, absolutely. I like what you said, being a good steward of the small things. And then you never know, you may be blessed with even larger and greater things in the future. I think about the Travis Scott picture that I have laminated right over here next to me, right? And we've talked about that, when you go back and look at some of the cold brew and combos, there's times where we're live and there wasn't anybody there. It was just you and I talking to each other and to the camera. But we knew, like, it also, as an individual, as an entrepreneur, what is your why? Why are you doing this? You know what I mean? Are you really doing it just for the money, or because you're passionate about this group of people that has some type of pain point or problems that you feel you have a solution for? And the passion that I have for that drives me to want to help, whether it's 2 people or whether it's 20 people or whether it's 200. And if you go into it with that mindset of how can I give, how can I share, how can I help elevate this person and their story, their situation, their plight, and help them elevate into a better situation, it's not guaranteed, But more times than not, you'll find yourself that you'll be blessed again with more opportunities, because then especially like word of mouth, they start telling somebody else, and they're raving about you. They're leaving reviews. I've had people that have reached out to me, on LinkedIn and other platforms because, hey, like, man, I've talked to so and so, and like they really appreciate the conversations. They appreciate what you're doing for them. So now we're rocking with you. We're following you. I wanted to reach out and say hello or connect with you, either your podcast, or your Facebook community, or even just connecting with you on LinkedIn. It's remembering your why, and again, doing it more, what are you truly passionate about? And hopefully it's about helping people as opposed to just making money. And when you do that, more times than not, in the long run, you'll be taken care of, man. You'll be taken care of, and things will work out for the better. So, so think about quality versus quantity in your inner circle. Think about quality versus quantity in establishing your community. And hopefully also thinking about, am I in this for the short term, or am I in this for the long term, in the long game? Which that's our perspective, right? Like, we'd rather focus on the few that we have, and whether that's in our Facebook community or now with our Podbeam community or our YouTube community, making sure that we're doing everything that we can for our entree leaders out there to provide you fire content, right? Helping you to get more out of your 24 hours, time management, organizational skills, strategies for the budding entrepreneur, the person who's just getting started, helping you with goal setting, and focusing on how do you really take this passion that I have and create, take the vision and really start to piece that together a little bit more, so that it's a little bit clearer for you, so you have a more definitive direction that you're going into to, again, create this business and this passion that you have to help people and to provide some type of product or service or experience to people that are out there. That's what we're passionate about, is helping individuals to do that. And we'll continue to focus on a few, and God willing, there'll be more. So again, for our listeners out there, we definitely appreciate you guys continuing to rock with us. For our viewers on the YouTube channel, again, we thank you as well for watching the videos, for liking the videos, for leaving comments. Continue to do so we can continue to engage with you in all of these different platforms. So yes, like the podcast episode, leave us a review, like the vidcast, the video portion of this, leave us a comment, subscribe to the channel. We definitely appreciate that. So if you think about what we just said, just to remind you, before we kind of tie a bow on this, again, quality instead of quantity. And just remember that choosing the right people for your inner circle takes time and trust. And think about that same thing for your customers, for your tribe, for your community. It takes time to build trust with them, so that at some point, because we go into business to make money, let's not get that twisted. At some point, when you build that trust and they get to know you, like you, and trust you, when it comes time, they'll be more than happy to pull out their card, to open up their wallets, and to invest in themselves, in your product and your services, because again, you've cultivated that relationship in whatever way that you do that, whether it's on social media or any other method, your email campaigns and email marketing and things of that nature. So just when you think about learning, reaching, and growing, there's going to be times as an individual where that you're going to need to call on that inner circle. So you want to make sure that you have people that you can trust to give you that wise counsel. Knowing your makeup, knowing yourself, what makes you tick, what your passions are, what's important to you, that helps to determine, all right, who are these people? Again, they don't have to be exactly like you, but what are some of those similarities that allows us to vibe the way that we do and connect the way that we do. So I know that this is definitely somebody that I should and could and maybe even need to have within my inner circle. What are your ultimate goals? What are the things that you're trying to establish in life? And again, are you evenly yoked in those things? We talk about sharpening your soul, right? So spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, in those areas, are you aligned, or at least if it's not completely aligned, like you hold each other accountable so that, hey, I see some things where maybe you can improve in these areas to help yourself spiritually and you're walking your faith, or, hey, bro, I see what's going on right now. Like, let's go work out. Let's make sure that we're staying on top of our health and our fitness because we're getting older. We have a family that is looking to us, and we have responsibilities. Like all of those things, again, iron sharpens iron. That accountability is just so helpful. And when you focus on those things, you will build deep and lasting, again, friendships that will completely support you along the way. And same thing applies to your community and your tribe. Focus on those individuals, give them everything you got, and they will support you every step of the way. Having said that, man, just Trinity Fitness comes into mind, and thinking about, the people that started with us from the beginning and that tribe of Trinity Fit individuals that we built. And, even to this day, like the love is still there, again, because of the love that was provided and what was poured out. And people love pouring back into you, man, when they know that you're sincere, you have a true appreciation for their best interests. And again, Entre Leaders, focus on your community, think long term, and build that community, give them everything you got. And again, I'm sure they will continue to support you along the way. So I think that's about it, man. Stay tuned, Legacy Leaders, Entre Leaders, for our next episode, which is going to be another installment of MBA, Mentored by Adversity. We're going to have Sunil, who is going to be our next guest, who is an intuitive branding coach. So we're going to do, we're kind of somewhat talking about decisions, right? And who you're deciding to have in your inner circle. But as we get into the month of May, we're going to really be focusing on decision making. So usually we kind of have conversations and then cap it with the guest, but I think we're going to do it a little bit differently. He's going to be talking to us about decision making and how your intuition should play a role and can play a role, especially when you really fine tune your intuition with the decisions that you make. And that will kind of continue to start us rolling into the month of May. And again, focusing on decision making and steps that you should take, things that you should think about as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as an individual, and make sure that you have that decision-making process down packed. So stay tuned for that. We're excited about Sunil and the next guest and the next installment of MBA. And then again, what we're going to be rolling into in May to finish off season 2, More Than a Pod. Yes, sir. So yeah, we're coming up on our 40th episode. So excited about that and everything that we have for the rest of this season. So hope that you guys enjoyed this. Again, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to leave us a review. We appreciate that very much. If you want to hit us up on Instagram, you can follow us at Legacy Leadership. You can follow myself, Coach _Jimmy Chi Jr. You can follow Devon at Leadership Docent. Show us some love and either meet us in the community on Facebook or just continue to rock with us right here on Podbean and on our YouTube community. We appreciate that very much. Hope this was of value to you. If it was, please share this. Again, it costs you nothing to share this episode, whether it's the podcast, whether it's the video. Share it with other Entre Leaders that you know are going to benefit from learning about why it's important to keep your inner circle small. So on that note, thank you very much. God bless, guys.
Rage on that beat, going crazy.
You have just listened to the Legacy and Leadership Podcast, hosted by Jimmy Gonzalez and Devon Watts. Thank you, and we hope that you live, lead, and leave a legacy worth remembering. Until next time.